any insights at all, feel free to just drop them in the same spots where you were putting your temperatures and locations and stuff like that. And we are monitoring this. And the thing that's, we joke about this, but like how many companies actually have parties for a product? We treat Routefinder PLUS like a family member because it was created, it was many years in the making. Some of you know that because you were waiting for it and you were kind of like, when is it going to be ready? Every time we had an annual client summit, Tony would be asked, Tony Civitella, our CEO, would be asked, when is this going to be ready for prime time? And I think Tony may have frustrated some of you because he was not going to release it as a light product. It had to be everything that Pro had plus. It had to be more. It couldn't just be some companies will put out like an abbreviated version, kind of does some of the things, but not everything. And he was like, I'm not doing that. And I remember being in the meetings with him talking to people and saying, and he always dreaded that question, like, well, when's it going to be out, Tony? And then in the midst of COVID, April, we had just shut down. Everybody in New York State had to basically retreat to their homes, work remotely. And Tony really pushed development to like, let's finish this up. Let's get it done. And we did. And we released it in April, just a few weeks after we all went remote, and it has just taken off since then. So and it was April, because of ACS, we moved our birthday party to May. Plus, we talked to Plus was not upset about it. It was very gracious, understanding, because we celebrated Plus at ACS, and so Plus was good with that. But we try to do this where we look back a year just to see a little bit of, or a lot. Zach and Tony are going to go over what has happened since we had our last birthday party and how it's changed, right, Zach? We got a lot of slides there about the significance and the growth. And
it's been a big year for sure. Lots of big releases. What I love about these opportunities is I'm sure there's going to be a lot of updates and releases that people go, I had no idea. I had no idea that I could do that, right? So hopefully some people leave this webinar going, I'm excited to go try out that new feature that may be released 6 months ago and has been sitting there waiting for you.
That's right. So I make a video every year for my kids, and my wife, so every year I did it since my daughter, who's 28 now, in her first year. So that was back in VHS days, before you could edit through your computer. I didn't have that capability, and I'm hunched over this VCR and, making these, videotaping pictures, manually and all this kind of stuff. And my wife was like, I don't want you to do it thematically, like combine all the sports stuff and ballet stuff. She's like, I wanted to see year to year. I want to see just what and it's amazing when you look at, like, wow, like when they were 2 to when they were 3, like just how they're walking better and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of what this is. So what we released 5 years ago, which was great, is so much better. It's light years ahead of even what it was back then. And then I think we're going to talk a little bit about what's coming down the road. So we are at 11:30. I don't know if Tony's on yet or not. Can you see attendance there? Is Tony on? If he's not, I'm going to send him.
I don't see him yet. I know he's rushing to make it today, so I'm sure he's going to jump on and join us.
All right. So we're going to just get started. That was all valuable stuff, though. So without further ado, you can go to the next slide here. We have 4 panelists. I'm Rick DeRico. I'm the Director of Public Relations here at Transfinder. Our company just continues to innovate. It's exactly what you want in a tech company. Even though we're 37 years old, we continue to innovate, and we are not the same company we were when I started here back in 2014. I don't think we're the same company when you started here, Zach. How many years ago was that?
That's 5 years ago. So I started just as we were releasing Routefinder PLUS. It was good timing because I didn't know anything about Transfinder's products, but Routefinder PLUS was so brand new, neither did anybody else. So it worked out.
That's great. So this is just a little bit about, like, we would not be, if Plus was not so consequential, we would not be on the cover. These are just a few covers and this last story here that says, why Pennsylvania Transportation Director declares I'm a big Transfinder fan, or a big fan of Transfinder. This is because of Plus, really. Plus took us to a whole different level. In the midst again of COVID, you could now remotely route. Those days it was maybe routing food and where people could pick up food or Wi-Fi and that kind of thing. It also gave us an opportunity to talk to a lot of transportation directors who had more time to look at things. So all of a sudden we ramped up because everybody could look at our product, which normally they might be crazy busy with other transportation issues. Things kind of slowed down a little bit in some ways. And so it was perfect timing. So you would not be seeing what you're seeing on your screen right now, I don't think, if it wasn't for Routefinder Plus. Zach, can you go to the next slide? I think that's the one with the panelists. So I just want to introduce our panelists, and then Zach's going to get into really where we've been in the past year. And then we're going to have each one of the panelists are going to share their story. And again, if you have questions, if you have something that you want to ask either a specific panelist or any of the panelists or Zach or Tony, just put it in that question mode and we'll get to it. I promise you we will. Our panelists include Clara Bisaillon, Transportation Supervisor at Scotia Glenville Central School District. Did I say your name right this time?
You did. I'm so proud of you.
I wrote it down, so I would not forget. So thank you so much. She's not too far from Transfinder's headquarters, literally just down the road. Craig Henson, Coordinator of Transportation at Tuscaloosa County School System in Alabama. Craig, great to have you. Jason Hibbard, also in New York State, a little further away. Transportation Supervisor in Chenango Valley. I'm sorry, and Stefanie Fliter, Transportation Secretary at Perrysburg Schools in Ohio. Did I get all that right? Okay. So without further ado, Zach, I'm going to turn it back over to you to give us kind of where we've been in the past year.
Sure. I know we definitely want to hear from our panelists. We appreciate them being here, but yeah, just to give a quick update, because there has been some really big updates in Routefinder Plus, and I'm going way back now. So we do a couple of updates throughout the year. Generally, we look at doing quarterly updates, or about 3 times a year. What we don't do is we don't do updates during those summer busy times when we know everything's so important. We don't want to impact anyone's work, and so this is going back to last spring. We had some major updates to Routefinder Plus, and I know the biggest one that is impacting all of our customers is the addition of mixed criteria routing, right? And this is one we've been hearing from clients since going way back on Pro that say, I need to be able to edit different routes at the same time. You're locking me out. I can't edit my morning and my afternoons. I can't edit my elementary and middle school and high school tiers at the same time. I'm too limited, right? And so we introduced mixed criteria routing. Now users can open up trips regardless of criteria, special ed, regular ed, AM, PM, tier to tier, and they can edit those routes side by side with each other. And that can be really helpful. You imagine, if I'm looking at my tiers, I want to make sure where's my buses going to be ending at tier 1 and where are they going to be heading out for tier 2. So having those side by side has been a really big deal. Mixed criteria routing, if you're not familiar with it, definitely reach out to us, reach out to our support team, your project managers, your account executive, and say, how do I utilize that mixed criteria routing? Because it can really open up your routing. A couple of other big ones just to call out, and it was really hard picking out because when we do a release, I'm pulling from a list of 50 new features that we put in there, and I'm saying, how do I pick out those 2, 3, 4, 5 top ones? The whiteboard was definitely a big one that I had to mention. So this is a feature that, I think is probably not adopted that widely yet. I think there's a lot of our clients that have not really worked with whiteboard because they're not aware of the kind of power, but whiteboard is a tool, and I'll show a quick video here that lets you actually collaborate with other people in transportation here. And I've got a quick video that kind of explains it, but you can have multiple users that log into your routing map. And you can see they're all working together collaboratively. I've got 3 people, 4 people, and they're saying, well, let's start to plan out. We've got a new school building that's opening up. Where are we going to be loading buses? Where should we have the school entrance? Where should we have the entry and exit points? Where's traffic concerns and things like that? And they can build and design these plans together These are map overlays that they can use while they're routing, while they're doing demographic plans, anything like that. So that's Whiteboard, is that ability to have a couple of people get together and kind of work collaboratively there. And the last one I wanted to make sure to call out is guide mode. We have so many users in our system that are total pros. They know our platform better than sometimes I do because they're in it so often, but we also know there's a lot of new users getting into our system. And so what we did with guide mode is it's a feature you can turn on and it gives you tooltips all across our platform. So if you don't know how to use that Whiteboard or mixed criteria routing, you can now hover over some of these tools and you get tooltip pop-outs letting you know, hey, this is what this tool does, or this is how you can activate this functionality. Those were some big changes we saw last year. Again, this was before last summer, so we're hoping that people have gotten a chance to take a look and seen some of them. As we keep going, a couple of other features that came out later in the year. This is fall of last year, we had another big release. And with that, we brought some great features. One of the big ones is we really think of ourselves as a mapping company, a GIS company. And so we brought a lot of new address management and map management with these new data grids for your streets and address points. So I'm here in Texas. We see change happening all the time in Texas with our maps. It's hard to keep up with. Now what we see is users can pull up all of their streets in a data grid. So if they need to say, hey, 10th Avenue is not going to be 10th Avenue, it's now going to be Pecan Street. Let me go ahead and highlight them all, click a button, and update all those streets at once. So map management has been really, really important for us. The people that were banging on our doors saying they needed more of that, I'm sure they've been using those new tools and seeing a lot of value. We've seen a lot of updates with dashboards too. More and more clients are using dashboards, and when they start using them, we start getting that feedback back from them saying, I like the dashboards, but I would love it if I could link my student to a vehicle's GPS in one dashboard. So if I want to say, hey, where's this kid or where's that bus, I can quickly link this data together. So we added the smart linking capability. So you can now create a dashboard that links any of your data together, whether it's a student, their trip, their stop, all of that, and you can pull it up and kind of link it up together in these dashboards there. Some other features that came out late last year, we did also bring in the ability to create trips right from your GPS. I can imagine if you're running summer school and you're trying to get all new trips in there, go have your drivers drive it. Just get in their bus, drive the trip as is, and then you can import that right from the GPS data that you capture. And just like that, you have a dozen new trips that were created without you having to do all the manual click and drag and try to build it out. One other feature worth mentioning, and this is another one that maybe we don't have a ton of people utilizing yet, but we think there's a lot of value in, was we added the ability to do student lookups in Viewfinder. What you can do now is you can actually scan a student's ID card, whether it's an RFID, QR code, barcode, you can simply scan it and Viewfinder will look that student up for you. And we think about how great that would be those first couple weeks of school, right? A student saying, hey, what bus do I get on? I'm not sure which one I ride. Well, you've got your ID card, let's go ahead and scan it. I see right here in Viewfinder, I've got your bus, I know where to send you. That kind of quick lookup functionality we thought was gonna be really big. And Rick, hopefully I'm not going over time too much. I got one last piece.
Don't hurry.
We just had a brand new release, and if I cover anything that you're not seeing in your system yet, this is still rolling out to some of our clients. So I think I did a poll. I think all of our panelists here have gotten upgraded to the latest version 5.2. But if you don't have anything I'm talking about here, we're rolling this update out in waves, and you should be getting updated soon. And we've seen some really great things. One of the big ones for us has been forms. We've been updating so much information with forms. There's a lot more we can do now. And what we did was we added a form library. People told us, hey, I love the idea of these forms. I love the idea of doing vehicle inspections with them or tracking student conduct. But can you give me a library? Can you give me some pre-built ones that I can start working with? So we did add that library for people, but we've gotten a lot further too. Our ability now with forms is that people can actually update and create records from forms. And so this can be a little scary, right? This idea that I might let a parent update a student's record or update even something as important as like a student's address from a form. Is every school going to do that? No, I don't think so, but you can see a lot of value. One of the big use cases is, hey, fill out a form and update whether the student should get transportation or not. A lot of good use cases we've seen from our forms. People are using these more and more, and we're just adding more workflows into them and functionality there. a lot of map enhancements, and these things get really granular. But you know, one thing that people have had a lot of excitement about is they can re-geocode their schools. That's been so nice, such a small little feature. Okay, I've got my school, we changed the location, we added a new bus lot. I don't want to have to unassign trips and go through all this work. Can I just click the button, move the school location, and have all my trips update and reroute to it? We can do that now with some of those new map enhancements. And the last one I have to touch on, this has been a really highly requested feature, is people want to be able to track ETAs. So parents obviously have been tracking ETs with us for a while, but a lot of our schools tell us, I want something that my school can actually track. What time is the bus going to be getting to my school? And so we've added this ETA dashboard. I'm actually going to zoom in a little bit here so we can see it. You can see my ETA for schools. I've got each one of my vehicles, bus 20, bus 21, and I want to know what time are they going to arrive at the elementary school? Are they running late or early? And now a school administrator could even have access to a tool like this where they log in and they know what time are my buses going to be getting here. Let me line my kids up because I know which ones are on the way. This ETA dashboard requires that you're using our in-vehicle software Routefinder, but this has been a big feature that people have been asking for. We're excited to roll it out with that new release there. I tried to go double time. I don't want to eat up too much of our time here, Rick, but those are some of my highlights there. You know, obviously, if we have any thoughts from our panelists, we'd love to hear them, but from there, maybe it makes sense to let them jump in and share a little bit.
Before they do, I want to make sure I get to two quick questions because I promised that I would like to get people interacting here. We got William asking, can whiteboard one day include collaborative routing? Is that something that you think that's on the horizon?
That's a great question. And I definitely see use for that. See that being on the roadmap. We're always a little hesitant, I think, to allow too many people to make changes. You know, even talking about forms and letting a parent update a student record from a form. That took us a long time to say, do we trust it? Do we like it? You know, who do we trust to collaborate and make changes to trips and routes? But yeah, I definitely see in the future whiteboard being more impactful, that I could do collaborative routing like that for sure.
Okay, and one other real quick one from Kathy says, can a principal view and answer the response of the form through Viewfinder? Am I right? Can a principal view and answer the response of the form through Viewfinder or Form Finder? Example, bus conduct reports coming in from our drivers.
Great question. We've been seeing a lot of people doing bus conduct forms. That's been a big request. And what we're able to do is we're able to create custom workflows depending on what the district wants. So when a driver fills out a conduct form, where should that form go? Does it go to transportation? Does it go to a school principal? What is that workflow? Do they get emailed? Do they get a daily report? We could set up a bunch of different workflows depending on how they need to see that. So definitely we can help them out.
Very good. Jason asked if this is being recorded, by the way, because he missed the beginning, which means he missed our chit chat in the beginning. Jason, good news. You'll be able to catch all of the weather as well as some of, but you seriously, you won't miss a thing. It's recorded and it will be on our YouTube channel by the end of the week. Now, thank you so much, Zach. We'll come back to you toward the end. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Clara to the table, to the podium.
Hi.
Clara, please tell us your PLUS story.
I'm Clara with Scotia Glenville Central School District, and I was thinking after we spoke yesterday, what was impactful. So I decided to share something slightly different, which will probably make you nervous because you know how I always just speak my mind. So we were talking about how PLUS has made a difference, and so obviously money is a big part of it. We want to make sure that we have a bang for our buck, right? And I was saying to you, I don't like to measure in money because money's not really a price tag doesn't really tell you the value, because you have things like you get what you pay for. But when we switched from Pro to Plus, it was a huge change, and I think everybody's heard me say it before that Pro was frustrating at the end, and just because it was a senior of its time. But Plus in its 5 years has saved our district money in so many ways. One, because I can route more efficiently, I spend less time with a clunky system that's booting me out, that I have to remote into, that I'm stuck to one area to get my work done, which most of us transportation supervisors, directors, coordinators, secretaries, we have to think on our feet. We're going 1,000,000 miles a minute, and it may take us from, you know, our office to our homes to taking our laptops on vacation with us. It's allowing me to do so much more in so little time that we have now available, and using that extra time that I would have spent on frustration, making sure that I've done my due diligence in routing, that the information that I have given to the system is accurate and correct. So it's saving me time, it's saving the district money. They're not paying overtime for those of us who are not salary. It's saving me, it's giving me peace of mind. So I'm sleeping better at night. In those features, things like the maps where you can preset. We have a bridge that was only supposed to be closed for about a year, and then it's a year later, and they're going, oh, another year, and we just got an update. It's going to be 2 more years. So having the ability to block off a roadway for directions with a specified time, it saves me the hassle of having to reroute all of my vehicles that may have automatically routed with the directions in that area. And then, because I'm long-winded, I'm going to tell you that Plus is such a gift because it comes from Transfinder, a vendor who cares, who really takes the time to understand what we need, listens to what we would like, listens to the frustrations to make a better product. And that's obviously how Plus came about with Pro. They're there when you need them most. I've called a few of my connections at Transfinder at 5 in the morning. They always answer. And more importantly, they're there when you don't necessarily need them. They're still in the background. I have people, you know, saying hi, checking in, sending texts, have a great day. The connection that you get with Transfinder is not just the product that you're using, but a personal connection. And for our industry, that is super important that the people that you work with care as much as you do. So there you go.
I'm getting a little emotional hearing this.
Oh.
I'm serious. I mean, I do cry at Hallmark commercials, but seriously. By the way, when you talk about the bridge being, are you talking about Sunnyview?
Yes. Sunnyside.
Sunnyside. That would. My daughter lives on the other side of that. She'd be 5 minutes to my house if it wasn't for that. So thanks for the update on that.
Yeah, 2027. It's nuts.
But that's real life scenario there. So I appreciate it. I interviewed somebody not too long ago who told me a similar situation, that when they created all their routes in the beginning of the school year, some projects came up that weren't planned, and they were able to just reroute it until that end date, you know?
Yeah, all you gotta do is tell it where you can't go, and it automatically updates those routes. Whereas before we would have had to, you know, the click and each point you had to, we all remember that, but it's so much easier because it just does it for you.
That's great. Well, thank you. Now, toward the end, we'll have some chance for all of us to talk together. But moving on to our next panelist, Jason. Can you please tell me?
Jason is having some audio issues. We'll see if he's connected.
Yeah, can you hear me or not?
Yeah, I hear you.
Gotcha.
Oh, perfect. Somehow I mysteriously, magically fixed it. Thank you. I'm sure it was all of Zach's help. So, yes, I'm with Chenango Valley. We spoke earlier about the fact that I left one school and came to this school in the last couple of years and brought Transfinder with me. I feel it was a lot more powerful than what we were using. The biggest selling point for me is the community options, where we can get the guides, we can, you know, essentially learn at our own pace, the chat. You know, and like Clara was saying too, with being able to change the routing so easily, you know, as with everybody being short drivers, I can merge runs, I can combine runs, I can get rid of runs, I can move students from one run to the other just by lassoing them and sliding them over essentially. So I agree with the money saving aspect isn't always, we did save money to purchase the software. However, the efficiency we gained was just phenomenal.
You think that it pays for itself? I mean, Clara, you can answer, any of you can.
For sure.
Many times over.
I mean, it's the price tag is definitely appropriate, but I feel like, you know, you get way more than you pay for based on all those things I shared about before.
I just feel like when we think about.
I agree too that, no, sorry, I agree too that, you know, we had multiple programs to do multiple things within our department, and we've eliminated it down to just Transfinder. I mean, I was lucky enough here when we made the move, we pretty much have everything. We are using obviously Plus and Wayfinder and Viewfinder and Tripfinder and Stopfinder for the parent app. And we just finished our implementation of Service Finder to manage everything to the garage. And just to be able to streamline our work orders, and, you know, it's very helpful for me to manage my mechanics' time and justify to the school, hey, we really need to do something. I'm seeing my driver or my mechanics are driving more than they're turning wrenches. So where is that benefiting the school that I'm not getting the time in the garage that's needed because we're short and mechanics have to drive? So just the visibility sometimes too is the dollars and cents that you're saving.
I just think about, like, when you go to the school board, you go to your superintendent and you're making, you know, a request for, you know, Plus or any of the other solutions we have, for them to know, like, you know, it actually is, at the end of the day, it's not going to cost us anything. I mean, that seems like a great selling point. But I think it's also, Jason, I said this to you yesterday during our dry run, you know, when you know, I hate to use the expression putting your neck on the line, but when you say, like, I want to displace another solution and I'm believing in this so much so, I mean, that to me speaks volumes, that you're willing to put your reputation within the district as a new leader there on the line.
And
so thank you.
And I did, and I appreciate that, and I thank you for that. But at the same time, it was an easy sell because what we've been able to do, and the principals, the building secretaries, the teachers, you know, it blows their mind when, oh, hey, I put a trip request in. Where is it? Well, go right back in and look, and you can see, hey, these are the drivers assigned. These are the buses assigned. You know, they've got so much more comfort being able to see it. Or I have a building secretary, hey, what bus does Clara ride? Well, type her name in and here you go, you can see it. So that's been, you know, you guys at the same time have been able to back up everything I was presenting.
Awesome. Zach, I think you answered the question, but I'm going to read it out loud anyway, if you could share it, because I think there's some value. You think there's some value in sharing this with everybody?
Sure.
Boundaries?
Yeah.
So, so related to zip code boundary edits, is there a simple way to update the address points that now have new zip boundaries? And I know you're very efficient, Zach. Zach's like the duck on the water. Looks like it's really smooth, but he's paddling like crazy underneath the surface. But Zach, what did you tell him? What did you tell Scott?
Yeah, great question from Scott over there also. Yeah, I mean, what we do uniquely is we've got a couple of different map layers. And, you know, we have our clients that are pushing us to be able to manage those map layers more and more every day, right? So like I said, bringing in street grids so you can mass update streets. With address points, we just added a brand new functionality with this release that I can now import address points. So if I get a new layer from the county, I can say, great, send me the file over. I just log into Plus, click the import, and I can grab any of those new neighborhoods or things like that. You know, what Scott's talking about is if you have changes to zip codes, hopefully it's not happening too often. But again, I'm here in Texas, we see a lot of change. Even things like the zip code layer, you can go in and edit within our system with the map editing tools. And why does that matter is because, well, if we have a new zip code come into our community and I have kids' addresses feeding in there, I need to be able to geocode those accurately. And so being able to manage all of these layers, you know, I'm just going to say there's some tools on the market that are just using kind of consumer grade maps and things like that. You just have Google Maps and that works usually for if you're getting in your car and you're driving somewhere. But the level of safety and accuracy that you need to be able to transport students, you need to have this level of control sometimes over your own maps. And so kind of a detailed question there a little bit, but I think it's driven by what we see. I'm sure everybody on our panel here has seen that need to have that kind of level of accuracy with all their maps.
That's great. Thank you so much, Zach. Again, keep the questions coming. We got 2 more panels. We also have we're kind of at the halfway point here. We got a little trivia question. But keep the questions coming, and I promise you we will try to get to every single one of them here. So good questions so far. Zach,
right
go to
the
the
halfway
next
point. Should we jump to the trivia question?
Yeah, let's do it. So Form Finder, which is embedded in Routefinder PLUS at no added cost, and Zach's already talked a little bit about it, has grown in popularity. So how many forms were submitted in the first quarter of this year? This is just first 3 months of this year. How many forms? Anybody want to take a stab on the panel before we show the answer? And feel free to punch in your numbers right here. Susie says.
Getting some answers already, yep.
Okay, anybody else? Give me, Susie, good guess. I like that. Anybody else? Panels? Jason, what do you think? Clara?
I'm gonna
Right.
say I'm going a little on the conservative side and say B.
Okay, B, we got a couple of B's.
I'm gonna go
I'm
D.
saying D.
330,000.
Greg, what did you say?
I'm gonna go D. 330,000.
Okay,
I'm gonna agree
Stefanie?
with Craig.
Okay.
I'm thinking B because why is that such a random number and everything else is an even number?
All right, I'm seeing a lot of, go ahead and give us the answer.
Yeah, a lot
Zach?
of B's out there. A lot of B's.
Yep, and the
The
answer,
right answer,
Diane,
though.
you nailed it.
Wow.
Diane nailed it.
Spectacular.
And that's about, now, you know what? I got to tell you, this is the first quarter. And what we found is it's increasing even more so. So it says 77,750 a day. That number is probably higher. So when we do the birthday bash next year, that number may be significantly higher. Very good. Thanks, Zach. We'll go on to now moving into the second half of the birthday party bash here. We have Stefanie Fliter. And Stefanie, looking forward to hearing your Transfinder Routefinder PLUS story.
Oh, I love that you have all my data there too. That looks fantastic. So yes, my name is Stefanie Fliter, and we're in Perrysburg, Ohio, which is a suburb of Toledo, so the Northwest Ohio area. So we transport about 168 routes a day plus non-public. So we have people going. I felt like Jason and Clara did such a wonderful job. I'm trying to think of what I can talk about PLUS. That's amazing. So what is different for us this year is that our elementary schools have redistricted. So every section of the school area boundary planning had to be changed. So with PLUS, it was so easy to do that. We just made the boundary planning, and then we, clicked and plugged everybody in, kept the same routes as before, just switched the schools, and it was the most easy thing to do. So we're already working on next year's. The other thing would be the walk zones. So we did increase our walk zones as part of our high school, and being able to just mark that street by street was fantastic. So we already know right away who's going where. So I'm feeling pretty confident about next year that it's going to be, with everybody going somewhere else, you usually have chaos, but now we have a whole nother level of chaos next year. And I'm pretty confident because of PLUS that it's going to make the transportation part a lot easier. So a couple things that I think that, like Clara talked about the savings, I think about the trust that PLUS has created for us so that we can provide a great experience for our drivers, for our schools, for our parents. We have the most accurate routes we've ever had because our drivers can see in real time what the changes are for their route. So we have the other programs, Wayfinder and Stopfinder. So our drivers can see when I make a change in routing in PLUS, they see it immediately in Wayfinder, and they can tell me, hey, that wasn't right. So they're working together. And our subs can have, in the past, subs were, they were like, oh, is this route accurate? And you're like, yeah. And then they go out there and they're like, well, the kids started yelling at me. I was supposed to turn right, and they're yelling at me to turn right, and my paper says to turn left. Well, now we don't have that as much. And so the trust level our subs have with our drivers, and even if a driver does another driver's route, there's a whole level of trust in the culture that brought and brings to our area is just fantastic. So I'm loving that. I know, for example, I recently had to drive unexpectedly, and I got in a bus and didn't have any plan, didn't have a paper route. I wasn't planning on doing a route. And then they said, hey, the driver's not going to make it like we thought. So I had to go start the route and drive. The driver met me along the way. It worked out seamlessly. The kids had no idea. They actually even thanked me. Like I told them what was happening as I was leaving. I'm like, hey, the driver's going to beat. And then they clapped. But all of that is because of Plus, because we can do. They did. It was junior high, and I was like, are they messing with me right now? So I thought they were pranking me, but they all clapped and they said, thank you very much for taking us. And I'm like, this has got to be a joke, right? I don't think it was. So it was just a really nice bus, I guess. So
it's a testament to your driver. I'll just throw that out there.
You're right. You're right. He's got them, like they're just respectful kids, I guess. So I think trust is the big thing that Plus brings to our district, and our drivers have that, and they're empowered to have the most accurate routes we've ever had.
That's awesome. Has anybody here, I had a webinar, we did this a couple of years ago. Somebody told me that she had, she used to bring the drivers in and put up on a projector routes and allowed them to actually be a part of making adjustments. I don't think they did it for every route. It was kind of like, let's look at some of the trouble ones. And they all just felt, you're shaking your head, Stefanie.
I don't know if we've done that, but I could see that idea, having a big TV up there. I think that's just a fantastic idea.
Very cool. And regarding Wayfinder, do you guys, somebody else told me that they actually have, they actually pay their drivers to come in a day early and drive their routes. And they said, they've got approval from their, superintendent to do that. And
we do that.
You do that? That's great. Mm-hmm. So just like little things I'm learning along the way. How about anybody do that? Zach, what's it called in Wayfinder when you can do, you're not actually driving it, but you're doing a test run on the tablet? It's called
simulation.
To simulate. Yeah, there you go. So that was originally a feature just for our developers. They needed to test it out, test Wayfinder out from their desk. And we said, hey, there's actually probably a lot of use. There's a lot of people that are a sub driver that say, hey, go drive a new route you've never done tomorrow. Might be nice to grab the tablet and sit there and simulate it so they could see it. So Craig, I'm sure you could share some cases. Before we jump to Craig though, I just want to say, Steph, I think brought up the real reason, people look at a platform like Plus is the big stuff, the trust, the safety, having a vendor partner and things like that. But I still get excited about the features and functionality. And talking about boundary planning, one of our new features that we just came out with allows us to take any boundary that a student lives within. You can set up a user-defined field on that student's record. So if a kid lives in a non-eligible zone, I can have a field on their record to let me know that. If they are living in a new school boundary, I can have a field for that. There's so many use cases, like you're talking about, when I'm re-boundary planning my elementary schools, I might want to be able to see on the student record, all right, where were you last year? Where are you going to be this year? And see side by side any kids that are moving boundaries. There's a ton of tools that we bring in to just help make that process a little bit better.
Very good. Thank you so much, Zach. Craig, last but definitely not least, please. And then the reason why Zach said about Wayfinder is Zach actually had a statewide impact by allowing, by pushing lawmakers.
Not me. Craig,
allow tablets. So sorry. So Craig, tell us your Plus story.
Sure. Well, first of all, happy birthday to Routefinder PLUS. No one has said that yet. I fully expected, being a musician, that we might even sing happy birthday, but we'll leave that to the, I guess, fantasy of the imagination. But definitely happy birthday. It's a true testament to Transfinder and the products. Our system was on Routefinder Pro for about 12 years, and we're excited to have come into the process really on the ground floor, and have been with Plus literally for almost the entire 5 years, less about 2 months while we implemented. But I think the things that come to mind in the time that we have shared together in PLUS, it all goes back to two really big rocks, as it were, and that's enhanced safety and optimal efficiency. And I feel like a lot of the other panelists have already said that. So time is money, right? And so the optimal efficiency is where that comes in. You know, Clara mentioned about not having to spend as much time doing other things, and that's efficiency. And I think that's what Routefinder PLUS brings to the table, that that makes it rise above other products that do similar things, is the fact that it really is, it works well together. It is a one-stop shop to do many things, but I think one of the driving points for us is the optimal efficiency, that how can we work smarter and not harder to serve. I mean, you can see we serve, you know, we transport about 13,000 kids every day on hundreds of routes, that we need that optimal efficiency to be able to serve our stakeholders like we would like to. And then of course we all every day think about its safety. And I think that's the piece that hasn't been mentioned yet, even though it's subliminal to us at all times. Safety is paramount to what we do, and I see that being something that's easily monitored and easily regulated, as it were, through the use of Transfinder, specifically Routefinder PLUS. One of the things we're most proud of is we were able to lead the charge for the state of Alabama for the study, and it's now approved that tablets are available and used on all buses that wish to do so. And we have systems all across our 250 systems roughly that come. They visit our campus all the time to see how we do it. Much like we did at ACS, we put them on a bus here, we ride them around, show them the route, talk about the ins and outs, and then develop a partnership to kind of share what we have, to not reinvent the wheel for them. And just talked with a system yesterday that's about to go on board with 500 tablets on buses, and it all started in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So we're very, very proud of that, and proud to pass that on, I guess, as our 5th birthday gift to Routefinder PLUS, that we could be a small part of the process, that we took time to invest in making it better for us. And then because of that, we've made it better for a lot of other people in the state of Alabama to use a tablet. And that onboard navigation, as Stefanie already spoke about, is a game changer for us. We drive different buses all the time. I use the simulate feature probably more than anyone here, because I've been around a while. And I may have driven the route 4 or 5 years ago, but because we continue to grow. When I started 6 years ago, we were only at about 15,000 students. So we've grown quite significantly in 6.5 years, and lots of the routes have changed. So oftentimes the evening before or the morning of, I will often simulate the route just to at least know the basic pathway the bus is going to travel. But we use it extensively. We certainly can't say enough good about it. Probably my favorite feature, actually one other thing that we're proud of that I'll mention quickly, is the import process, the way it's now allowed and so easily managed through Routefinder PLUS. When I first started here, parents had to call our office during work hours. We only have three lines and 3 secretaries, and it became quite expansive of a job for them to do. Oftentimes the information was incorrect based on communicative disorder between 2 people. And then they would send it upstairs on pen and paper. We would put it in on the pen and paper, actually would not put it in Routefinder Pro, send it back downstairs. They would call the parents back, which often involved multiple phone calls, often that we never reached them. And it was usually a 2-week process. Now I'm proud to say that we have an online form. Just last night, I got 3 between the hours of 12 midnight and 4 a.m. that people registered their children for buses. We have QR codes and registration posters at all 36 campuses, and who needs to register. We have it set to automatically geocode those, and to date, we've done almost, myself and one other, put about 7,000 students on buses since June the 1st. There's no way we could have done that 6.5 years ago in our old system, because of the form, with the way we register. We pull it in with, and then through PLUS, we developed an email merge that immediately sends it out. I've already done about 20 today. in matter of minutes. And that's usually my selling point to all the districts when they come to view it, is I keep ones that have gotten the day before, and I literally do it with them sitting there watching me, and they're always amazed at how quickly we do it, get the info email merged to the parents, and then we've developed a report that goes to our drivers that we print out, and literally 25 to 50 people we can do in less than an hour, and everyone's notified. Whereas, 3, 4, 5 years ago, it would have at least been 2 or 3 days. So we're very proud of that because we can get it turned around quickly. And again, that comes to optimal efficiency. The tool I probably use more than I would expect is a playback tool. So I would really encourage you, if you haven't really delved into the playback tool, go under settings and look it up. It's very much worthwhile. Even if you don't have navigation, it allows you to see how the route directions will traverse the bus. If you have navigation, it's a true game changer, simply because when we started navigation here several years ago, that feature wasn't available. And so the only way you knew is either A, to get on the bus, as Stefanie mentioned, or sit there and try to make heads or tails of all the little arrows. Now you put it in 10 or 20 times speed playback, and you can see the exact path the bus is going to travel. If it goes up and back and up and back, then you probably messed something up in a curb approach. You've probably done something that's not the program's fault, that we often beat our desk and think is. It's the user error, and it helps you figure out those user errors much quicker. I think I'll close by saying I found a quote after we finished yesterday. The thing I'm most proud of with and why I would be a proponent and will always be of Transfinder is the progressivism. Too many places now are happy with the status quo. Too many places now get a product that works and they're just thrilled that it works and they're making good money and people are happy. And I don't see that with Transfinder. In my 6.5 years, there's always more. There's always the ceiling limit is always growing higher. I would encourage you, anything that you think might be a possibility, there's no stupid question, there's no stupid suggestion. Send it on, because you never know. A lot of things that are now are things that I mentioned at ACS 2 years ago that Zach said, hey, you know what, that's something we really ought to consider. And now here we are 2 years later, and some of those are actually being done. So I appreciate the progressivism, because most Fortune 500 companies that I've been a part of or researched aren't always progressive. They're complacent. And I think there's a stark difference and a great divide between great companies who dwell in complacency and still make money and serve their customers, but greater companies who are progressive, still make money, but continue to always make it greater for their customers. So one of my favorite authors is C.S. Lewis, and he says this: we all want progress, but if you're on the wrong road, progress means doing an about turn and walking back to the right one. In that case, the gentleman who turns the quickest or the soonest is the most progressive. And I would say to you, Transfinder and Routefinder PLUS, congratulations, because you are the guys that turn the quickest, and you are the guys that make that progressivism come alive to take care of your customer. And again, happy birthday and congratulations, and Godspeed for many, many more.
Thank you so much, Craig. Wow. Craig hit on something that I want to touch on from the rest of you. And that is, he talked about like my favorite feature. I love that. He highlighted the playback. Does anybody have a favorite feature? Like, every day I do this, or you hear from one of your routers or somebody that says like, don't take this away from me. Anybody have anything that come to mind?
So this one's a little nutty, but I'm going to share it anyway. There's nothing that makes my heart happier than seeing like a convoy of buses. You see your buses departing the high school or middle school, or you see them departing your garage, and it's just a sea of yellow. It just gives you a good feeling, because you know that they're going to go out there. And anyway, I love having my maps open and watching my buses depart from each facility and see it go out into my community. It gives me goosebumps almost daily, which makes me creep, right? I'll own it. But I know that my staff has everything they need to do their job safely. You're ensuring I know where my staff is in case of an emergency. I know exactly where they are. I can pinpoint them. it shows me at the end of the day, it's a good job done. And that's something that you've provided. That's one of my favorite features, as creepy as it is.
I love it. I love it. Anybody else?
I would say too, I mean, a playback is a game changer, but two others that we use often, optimization. The optimization tool is very, very helpful. We've used it multiple times over. We found with a lot of our veteran drivers, just because it's the way they've always gone, doesn't mean it's the most cost effective or the most optimal way to travel. So the optimization tool, and then the absorption feature that someone mentioned, I think it was Jason, the absorption feature to when you know you have those detriments like COVID, that you can absorb routes quickly and easily. The way we have our email merge set up now, we can absorb the route within a matter of 2 or 3 clicks and emails that we require on our form. We can send out changes immediate. And those that are stop finder, you know, our next piece will be service finder, but the stop finder down the road, then you can also tie that into stop finder to where you don't just email, you can place a call or a text or both to send it out immediate. So it's a very, very good tool that really doesn't take a computer engineering degree to figure out. The computer does the hard work. You just have to know the basic skills of what to do to get it to do that. But I would say those are two other tools that are very, very helpful and very useful that were not available in Pro that have come about in the 5 years of Plus.
Right. I know we've talked about in the past, I don't think we talked about it here so much, but before I forget, you talked about AIO, artificial intelligence optimization, and we just did a webinar last week or 2 weeks ago with Maine. It's very focused on Maine, but the assistant supervisor talked about when she moved all these routes that they had done manually into Plus, she saw all these concentric circles, and she goes, it was crazy. She goes, it was so inefficient, and we had so many people that were routed on buses that never took the bus and all this. So she goes, just putting that alone saved us time, money, and even really safety, because it was just like everything was just much more orderly. So anyway, it made me think of that. How about district policy in terms of, Clara, I know you've talked about this in the past, in terms of not having students crossing the road. You can either set it by, you know, if your policy is like no kindergartner through 3rd grade can cross the street to get to the bus, or if you want to make a whole swath of a route, just be not, you know, you can't cross over the road to get to the bus.
Right.
Anybody use anything like that that has like kind of safe, you know, school policy embedded into your routing?
I love that it stops us. We have several areas where we won't cross just based on high speeds and blind curves. I'm not a big fan of not having kindergartners cross, and because kindergartners are the easiest ones to teach, right? So if we start teaching them how to safely cross the road when they're younger in those appropriate areas, then we end up with seniors who can cross the road, right? But I love that in those districts or in those areas, those zones that I've created, when I have someone I'm teaching to route, not have to worry like I did previously when we had Pro, not having to worry about going back and double checking, you know, are they making sure that on Spring Road or Sacandaga Road that they are not crossing, that's a pinpoint didn't get put in the wrong place. And so those features are spectacular.
Great. You know, I always learned from see, I never would have thought that. I've always been hearing people about kindergartners, but what you just said makes perfect sense too. Teaching them when
they're
still
sponges at that age. They haven't learned to push back yet. And by the time they get to that middle school age where, you know, they're just a pleasure in their attitude, it's already ingrained in them. So they're gonna, you know, they're gonna cross appropriately. They're gonna be aware. They're gonna observe. They're gonna stop and double check. You know, but it works better when you get them as kindergartners.
Yeah, and they're gonna be the ones that are gonna, you know, you teach. It's so funny. Like you can have your kid come home from school and say, okay, this is how we wash our hands. No, this is the way Mrs. So-and-so says it. And it's like now the gospel truth. but they do, they hook onto that. It's like, okay, all right, as long as you're doing it that way, it's good. Okay, but once again, another look at our panelists here. I just want to, once again, we're not done yet, but I just want to thank you each for sharing your stories, taking time. Want to go to the next slide. While we're going there, I want to read a question here from Andy for Zach. Is there a way where more than one person can have access to the same boundary file at the same time? Do you know that answer? Am I putting you on the spot?
Yeah, I mean, Andy's had some he's had some bangers here in the chat as far as questions. You know, a lot of these get pretty deep. Again, some of these tools, we do allow you to work collaboratively, so you can open, you know, your school boundary planning tools simultaneously with other users. We know routing will lock other users out, so that can be limited. And we had a really good question earlier. Is there a future of using like Whiteboard to collaborate on trips, which I think is great. It goes right to what you're talking about, of putting that up on a TV screen, even with your drivers, to get that collaboration and feedback. So yeah, I do see some ways that we can do better collaboration with some of those tools, but a lot of boundaries, you know, you can work simultaneously with other users for sure.
Right. And I see you answered about the forms as well, so please make sure you read the answer there about a plan to bring in other district forms into the library.
Yeah, so that new form library that we just released, I think we're going to see so much of that. We've heard it forever. We've had forms for a few years now, and clients have made great forms. We've made great forms for clients, but clients are saying, how do I get my hands on that, right? And so I'm really excited that we have a form library now. All of our clients are going to have access to. Again, if you haven't updated yet to the latest version, we're rolling that out in waves, and that'll give you a library. We can go and see pre-built forms. And that library, you know we've seen it with our report libraries and our dashboard libraries. It's just going to grow. We're just going to add new forms in there. And these are ones that a district can grab and say, yeah, I like this, but I don't like that. And they can go edit it and make it their own. So I'm excited to see that. I think we've got a bunch of panelists here that have used and worked with forms that, you know, I'm sure we're going to be grabbing some of the stuff they've built and putting some of that into our library too as we go forward.
The other thing is this, Zach. I mean, I think one of the goals is really, could Form Finder actually, which you already own, you already have it, could it display something that the district's already paying for and be used, you know, district-wide outside of transportation even? And within transportation, I've heard several people have told me how, say you have a student on a bus who normally, unlike me when I was on the bus, is actually very well behaved. And for whatever reason, you see a stretch of 2 or 3 days where he's not behaving properly. And so they can put in a disciplinary form in there, but it can get to the teacher. The teacher can say, hey, maybe there's something going on with in Tommy's home life. And or vice versa, that the teacher could let this bus driver know, hey, look, he had an off day today. And so just all that information to help better serve our kids, right? And to realize like, okay, this is not how Tommy, Ricky DeRico, yeah, that's how he's typical, that's the way. But Tommy doesn't act like that. There's something going on. We care about him and we want to, you know, serve them better. So I think there is a real goal that how do we get it out?
Jumped the gun a little, Rick. I know I jumped right into a trivia question. I see people already starting to drop some guesses in the chat here.
Good. We talked a little bit about Wayfinder here. So Wayfinder, the award-winning driver app, which executes on the routes that you guys have carefully created in PLUS, navigated how many trips again? Just first quarter. And I'm seeing some D's. Okay, so 32. So again, my panelists, what do you think? Show of hands. A. Anybody say A? Nobody's running for A. B. 6.
I'm sticking with B.
A couple B's. Okay, we got 3 B's. Anybody say C? 170,000. Okay, D. Jason, you going for? Okay, Jason.
Next after last time.
Next one up there, Zach. Let's see what we got here. You were right, Jason. 708,000. By the way, little fun fact there. More than 3.2 billion with a B GPS events were captured in Q1 of 2025. That's 55 million a day. So these numbers are crazy, crazy, crazy. We're about 3 minutes out from closing here. I'm going to ask our panelists to give us this one takeaway, kind of try to keep it keep it tightly focused. You guys have given us a lot, but if somebody was watching this, what's one thing that you'd want them to go back to the office and share? And then we got one more quick slide, and then we'll wrap it up. So I'm going to start with you, Jason, Clara, Stefanie, and then Craig. Again, keep it tight.
The one real quick thing I got to share, goes to your question about features. There are just too many features that have made my life so much easier. The speed of routing, all of that. The biggest thing is with going with the parent app and the visibility for everything. I think we've lost 3/4 of our phone calls to the office. Not just my time, everybody's time, because it's just streamlined and simplified so much.
Very good. Go ahead, Clara.
I, as always, encourage you to reach out to your neighboring districts who use the same programs and ask them what their favorite thing is to use. I know that we don't have a lot of time to delve into something, but finding something that has made one of your peers' lives so much easier. I often chat with my peers in my area to find ways to make things better. So I encourage everybody just to chat with their peers and people I've met that are in other states. We do occasionally connect just to make sure we're sharing those tips in a more timely manner.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Stefanie.
Stopfinder and Wayfinder. Get the parent app so you can, like Jason said, Wayfinder, so then your routes are so accurate that your drivers know exactly where to go. Get those tablets out on those buses if you can, if you're allowed to. It's fantastic.
Super. And Craig.
I think I would say dig into community and look into the certification courses. The Wayfinder certification and the Routefinder PLUS certification are well worth doing. They're very informative and very intuitive. And I think you'll find you can become a more effective and efficient user to be a good steward of the money your district is investing. You can invest in yourself, and it gives a little certification that backs it up. And I think you'll find on the back end of it, as I have, having done both of those, that it's well worth the time and the money because of the things that you'll learn and how you can use it to better serve your schools.
Awesome. Very good. Thanks, Craig. All great takeaways. Real quickly, I'd be remiss not to share with you the Top Transportation Teams Award program that we have been running now. This is our 3rd year. So see the QR code there, or you can just go to toptransportationteams.com. Everybody who's on, I'm telling you, you need to apply. You need to enroll. It's free, and it's really a team building exercise. You will learn things, even if you don't win, you will learn things that will help you to get better among your team. And it really, one of the people that did it last year said it was his drivers actually that led the effort for them to enroll. But please take a look at that QR. You can do it with your phone right now, or you can just go to toptransportationteams.com. Next slide, Zach. Do you have any farewell words before I dismiss everyone?
I know we're right on time. I appreciate all of our panelists, a lot of people that, are experts on our products, right? These are the people that we hear from, the good and bad about what we're doing, which is all good to us, right? Because even when clients are complaining or asking us for more, that tells us their use of the product, their push of the product, and that's what makes our product better for all of our clients across the country. So, we appreciate you guys. We appreciate everybody that joined today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to, again, thank our panelists. Thank all the attendees. Great questions, great feedback. And until then, until next year in Plus Turn 6, have a great rest of the day and great year, I guess. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, Rick.